Welcoming you, good evening. Thank you so much for coming to this exciting evening here in Montgomery, Texas. We've got some new members that will be sitting up here. And with that, I'd like to call this meeting into order. It is exactly 6 p.m. and we will begin this evening with an invocation given by Councilman T.J. Wilkerson.
Lord, we come tonight with humble hearts and bowed heads. Lord, we come and asking you to stretch your grace and your mercy among the people down in Uvalde, Texas, Lord. Watch over the parents, all of the young kids. Lord, not only there, but Lord, stretch it all over Brooklyn, New York, and then go all over the United States, Lord. Watch over us, Lord, creating us some patience, creating us some understanding, creating us the love that abides from heart to heart. Lord, watch over us as we go. And Lord, we come tonight, thank you for the servants that have volunteered to serve this community. Watch over the ones that was here, that they may go out and they have their health and strength. Keep us united, Lord, on one accord. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag? Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. First order of business on your agenda, item number 1. Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Judge Wayne Mack will administer the oath of office to the following duly elected officials from the May 7th, 2022 City of Montgomery general election. Byron Sanford, Mayor, Casey L. Olson, City Council Place 2, and Cheryl Fox, City Council Place 4. All right.
Everyone that's here in public service, we appreciate your willingness to stand up and serve. God bless you for this. So if you'll raise your right hand, please. In the name and authority by the state of Texas, repeat after me. I, Byron Sanford.
I, Byron Sanford,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Mayor of Montgomery
of Mayor of Montgomery
in the state of Texas,
in the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and to the best of my ability
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
defend
defend
the Constitution,
the Constitution,
laws of the United States,
laws of the United States,
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Sign this right here. Thank you. Very good. Cheryl Fox. This is the list that we're going to the Very good. Congratulations. All right. I should have worn my feet. All right, very good. Sheriff, will you raise your right hand, please? By the authority and name and authority of the state of Texas, I state your full name.
I, Cheryl Ann Fox,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of council member,
the duties of council member,
place 4,
place 4,
for the city of Montgomery
for the city of Montgomery,
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
defend
and defend
the Constitution,
the Constitution,
the laws of the United States,
the laws of the United States,
and this state.
and this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Good. Oh, Cheryl, I need your autograph. Sign right here. From your city secretary has done such a great job with tabs and
She's
everything.
She's very efficient.
Very efficient, very good. My staff must talk to her because I usually mess this up. All right. Casey Olson. Very good. You raise your right hand. In the name and authority of the state of Texas, I state your full name.
I, Casey L. Olson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the council, of the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of council member,
of council member,
place 2
place 2
of the city of Montgomery
of the city of Montgomery
and of the state of Texas,
in the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
defend
defend
the Constitution,
the Constitution,
laws of the United States,
the laws of the United States,
and this state.
and this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Oops, see, I almost messed it up. Let's do this right here. Put your name up there. Very good. Gary, that's it. That's all you guys do, brother. Appreciate y'all very much. You are. Thank you. Very good. All right. Thank you all for letting me do this.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate the privilege of this.
Appreciate your service.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm taking this home.
Well, since you've done that, Richard, are we moving right on to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, since she officially changed the name tag, now I gotta do this. This is a 2-term mayor who sacrificially served your community, been a great friend to me, and I look forward to the future. In proclamation to the city of Montgomery, Texas, honoring Sarah Countryman for outstanding performance and dedication. Whereas the city of Montgomery recognizes Sarah Countryman for serving its citizens in the capacity of mayor for the last 4 years. And whereas Sarah Countryman has been involved in many projects that have been beneficial to the city, and whereas Sarah Countryman was able to successfully trademark birthplace of the Texas flag, thus giving the city of which she adores a unique identity, and whereas Sarah Countryman is being recognized for her unrelenting dedication and passion for the city of Montgomery, its residents, businesses, and visitors, and now therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor and council of the city of Montgomery does hereby recognize Sarah Countryman for her time, I'm going to add the word endless, energy, passion, and dedication to the city council, and urge all citizens in joining me with our appreciation for her selfless commitment to our wonderful city. Do I read the next part? I think that's good.
Thank you. I gave my adios last week, but it has been my honor and my privilege and my pleasure to serve everyone of this town. We've seen nearly triple growth. We've seen 60 new businesses. I accomplished the plans and the dreams that I had, every one of them when I came in. And I look forward to the future and seeing where this council takes us and where we're going to go. Let's keep our history, let's keep our charm and our uniqueness, but however, I love this place. I'm not going too far. Thank you all so much.
Two more proclamations here, but Julie Davis and Kevin Lacey were not able to attend. We will be sure that they get theirs as well.
I would like to make a motion to have a 15-minute recess. We have cake and in the other room for everyone. So please stay.
Motion carries.
First act is
It's cake. 8:82. Oh, somebody else to take it there? Just let it go where it goes. Okay.
a short break, we are reconvening at 6:22 with item number 3, consideration and possible action to elect the mayor pro tem for the term of 1 year as provided by Texas Local Government Code 22.037B. Council, we have had Brother TJ serve faithfully in that role as pro tem. What is your pleasure?
I make a motion to appoint Mr. TJ, to elect TJ Wilkerson as the mayor pro tem for the term of 1 year.
I second that.
Motion by Carol, second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. I probably should have said that first, I don't know. But anyway, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries. And TJ will be our mayor pro tem for another year. Under the Visitors Citizens Forum, we have 2 people signed up to speak, and in order they will be taken, and you will be asked to go to the podium and get your name and your address, and once you start, you'll have 3 minutes to address. So, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Duncan. I live on Marshall Street, and I am here to say it has been an honor having Sarah Custerman as our mayor for the past 4 years. Her honesty and integrity has been the backbone of your term in office. If a person doesn't have honesty and integrity, they have nothing. You have always demanded respect for the office of mayor you have held. The city is better off because of your leadership. It has been an honor to call you my friend and mayor. Better things will come your way in future endeavors. We also need to respect the police department and its officers and allow them to have whatever is needed to keep them and the citizens safe.
All right. Mr. Philip Lefebvre, you are next.
Thank you. Philip Lefebvre, 780 Klepper is my office. I wanted to talk about potentially the interlocal agreement that the city is discussing with the county. Hopefully it's not signed yet, but we're fine. And I wanted to talk about the roads and some of the things that I see went wrong last year or so. One of the major issues we have on the roads is the traffic to Endpoint is extremely heavy. And on many occasions, you'll find people backed up all the way to Kroger. We had a meeting last year with the county and with the city, and it was agreed they did a study, and they came up with 14,000 cars a day at that junction, and that warranted a traffic light. Since that time, nothing's really happened. I saw a very good drawing of a roundabout, and roundabouts are the future. They may not be very popular in Texas, but everywhere else in the world, they're very effective. And it was a very good drawing, and the county commissioner said that he didn't have the money to do that. So here we are a year later, we don't have a traffic light, we don't have a roundabout, and we don't have a turning lane. And I'm hoping the council can push city administration to be a little bit more pushy to get something going. The second, and the much bigger thing, is the bridge at the loop, which for the last 3 to 5 years, we've watched Town Creek eroding backwards. And again, last year we had a meeting with the city and with the county. And I pointed out, showed them photographs of how the bridge was getting undermined, and that if it wasn't addressed quickly, it would become a problem. At the conclusion of that meeting, well, the first thing that happened at the meeting is the county pointed at the city, and the city pointed at the county, and nobody could agree who was responsible. Either way, whoever's responsible, that is a very important bridge, because it essentially, back 2006, it took an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon to get through Montgomery, just to get people to school and back. And now with a school district that's 4 or 5 times bigger, if that bridge goes out, it's a catastrophe for the town. So at the conclusion of that meeting, it was determined that city administrators would be pushing that with the county, And basically, from what I can see, nothing happened. Whether it's the county's fault or the city administration fault, I don't know, but nothing happened, and it should have happened. That's too important. That bridge is the evacuation route for people in the woodlands and for hundreds of thousands of people in the county, which brings me to the second point. The rumor is that the county came up with a $200,000 budget to fix the bridge. That is not sufficient. It's one thing to fix the bridge, but we know how Buffalo Springs Bridge went. When you get a big storm, if you get a Hurricane Harvey, the creek bypasses the bridge, which washes it out.
I'll let you finish. That's 3, but go ahead and finish your thought.
That's up there.
That's a timer.
Okay,
Go ahead and
okay,
finish
thank you,
your thought.
yes. No, I've lost it. But what happened for that year, nothing happened. Now, there is much more damage under the bridge, and if we ever get another Hurricane Harvey, it won't only just take that bridge out, it'll take out the crossing at 149, because the erosion is that severe. So, if possible, I don't think that the city should take on that kind of liability. And hopefully, if possible, the city, Chris and Catherine are very good engineers. They probably understand the problems with that bridge and with Town Creek much better than the county does. So for the county to come up with a $200,000 estimate is just frivolous. It's going to take a weir, it's going to take drop structures, and it's going to take an overall treatment to slow the creek down. And hopefully, if you sign an agreement that obligates the city to maintain the loop, or any of that, it's going to be very expensive. More important to me, the county, and I'll shut up after this, the county is obligated to help all the other precincts, all the people in the woodlands, and they should not give up control of such an important road like the loop. It's the county gets the money, whether they get it from TxDOT or they get it from the other commissioners, they need to fix the bridge, they need to come up with a long-term solution, and hopefully they need to involve the city engineers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, under consent agenda, items 4, 5, and 6 fall under consent agenda. What is the council's pleasure? Shall we take these one at a time or all together?
Move to take them all together.
There's a motion by TJ to take these all together. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Council ready for the question?
Yes.
All in favor of considering consent agenda items number 4, 5, and 6 together, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are none. We will accept items 4, 5, and 6 on the consent agenda. Item number 7, consideration and possible action regarding the following. Okay, letter A, review of the annexation petition by Redbird Meadows Development LLC. Letter B, convene into public hearing on the petition to annexation. And so we're going to pause a little bit, Richard, and say,
All right, well, if you will, Mayor, let me just say that as an introduction, this is the final step towards annexing the property. The attorney and engineer are present here at the meeting if they're needed for questions. This annexation would conclude a process towards annexing in service of the area that began more than a year ago and has been worked through with city council, staff, consultants, and the developer. And then your next step will be to convene the public hearing, take any public comment, and then after any public comment, reconvene back in order to take action on the site.
okay, so I don't need a motion to do that, though.
No,
I can
you just convene into public.
All right, it's 6:31, and we now convene into public hearing on the petition to annexation.
So you should invite anybody who is here who would like to speak
Okay,
on
so
the annexation petition
for the Redbird development.
to do so at this time.
Okay, this is your time to speak. All right, there are none to speak, so it is 6:32, and we will reconvene into the meeting. Work? All right. So letter C, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Montgomery, Texas, to voluntarily annex by request of the property owner approximately 378.2 acres of land located in Zechariah Landrum Survey, abstract number 22, Montgomery County, Texas, being a portion of a 388.5 acre tract conveyed to Redbird Meadow Development LLC as recorded under the clerk's file number 202-104-9974 of the official public records, Montgomery County, into the incorporated municipal boundaries of the City of Montgomery, Texas, including the following: findings of facts, effective date, repealer, severability, and proper notice and meeting.
And Mayor, for your council's note, there's a paper out by your chairs. The legal team has made some slight grammatical revisions to the posts that came to us since that posting this week. And so that will be what the final one that was adopted.
And that was grammatical, typical, that type of thing. It was nothing of substance or content.
No. The exhibits remain the same. It was just some grammatical errors.
Okay.
So once we annex that, Chris, what would that entail? That we have to cover the water, the sewer? Could you explain a little to us?
This is the Redbird Meadows development, so they will be getting in-service water, sanitary sewer from the city. And so that was, at the last meeting, we discussed the development agreement in terms of the financing of the off-site water and sewer extensions to get to the tract. They will then finance all the interior improvements, the lift stations, the on-site water, sewer, drainage, paving. And then also at the last meeting, this is where they're in the process of the creation of a utility district to finance that internal to that development, to finance that infrastructure. And again, just put that point out again, that tax rate that they will assess within the 388 acres, it's only that 388 acres. It doesn't affect the city tax rate.
Any others?
I move to adopt the ordinance as presented with the correction attached.
Okay, we have a motion presented in letter C, the corrections that we were given, which were grammatical in nature. And we have a second from Casey. Any further discussion? This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Council ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of passing item C, ordinance annexing Redbird Meadow Development with the caveat of the accepting the grammatical corrections. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Motion carries. Item number 8, consideration and possible action on authorizing the city administrator to approve expenses for replacing lift pumps at lift station 3 in the amount of $37,872.
Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and let the Public Works Director, Mike Muckleroy, go ahead and address this item to council in light of cost effective.
Okay.
Good evening. So lift station 3 is by the bus barn. We've been experiencing an abnormal amount of ragging at that lift station lately. The pumps that we are proposing to put in there are the pumps that we would like to eventually see at every lift station. We did this exact project at lift station 8 about 6 years ago, and we have, knock on wood, have not had any problems since. This is a flight pump, and it's got a impeller in it that's designed to lift 1/8 of an inch before it starts spinning, and that helps keep it from ragging up. So the rags that get into it, whenever it lifts up, it will actually grab those rags and chew them up, but it lifts off the bottom just enough to get it to let that impeller start. So like I said, $37,000, well, $37,872 to be exact. We're looking at a 1 to 2 week lead time. This is our best option on this, and it will pay for itself within a couple of years, just from the call outs that we've been having on having to have H2O respond to it, and then have either their crane truck or a contractor's crane truck come out, pull the pumps, derag them, and put it back in service.
Okay, I'd like to ask council, I kind of ran this through a couple of administrators in my training, TML training, and actually Carol can substantiate this. It's recommended in Robert's Rules of Order that you entertain a motion first, and then see if you have a second, and then enter into discussion. And I'd like to at least try that, because many times we would discuss 10, 12, 15 minutes, and nobody was going to make a motion, or it was going to die anyway. So, I'm not a formal person, but with that, I would like to say we come in prepared as we possibly can. So if someone's willing to make a motion, please do it before we discuss.
I'll make a motion to authorize the city administrator to approve the expenses for replacing lift pumps at Lift Station 3 in the amount of $37,872.
Do we have a second?
Second.
This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. And is there any further discussion? Questions?
Michael knows, go ahead. Go ahead.
How old's the pump, Mike?
How old?
How long's it been there?
I have to check on that, to be honest with you. I don't know the age off the top of my head. The last time they were replaced,
They have not been replaced, they've been rebuilt several times since I've been part of the city in 2015.
Okay.
So it's just an ongoing cost to maintain those pumps and to pull in when they rack up. So they're,
What size are they? What size emaciator pump are they?
I believe it has a 4-inch discharge.
They're quite expensive.
They are.
On the one, like 80,000 is one of these in here.
Yeah, so these are, they have a 4-inch discharge, 50 horsepower, 460 volt, 3-phase, 60 hertz. Color number 464.
So we're just replacing the pump, not the motor, right?
Well, the pump and motor are all in one.
And the one you want to replace it with is the same setup? It has the same cylinder where you can't replace the pump away from the motor?
So the submersible pumps, they're all motor pumped together. If we had like a Gorman Ruck like we have at Lift Station 4 over here, they have separate components, but with the lift station set up as it is, it would have to be a 2-in-1 combo.
and they can go in and rebuild the pump if needed. I mean, we have done that. If the colors go out, have any issues like that, the pump can be rebuilt. But these are the industry standard, what we would consider the best of the best. I mean, they're easily accessible. It's what all the contractors prefer to use. They hold up the best. Therefore, they are the most expensive. But you know, they pay for themselves. So, like I said, these are the same pumps, not the same size, but the same pumps that we put in at Lift Station 8. And we were at a point of responding 3 times a week to calls over there again. I still do this 6 years later, as corny as it is, but I still knock on wood every time because we have not had a call out over there since.
Any further questions?
Where is Lift Station 8 located?
Lift Station 8 is on Lone Star Parkway. The closest intersection would be Pleasantville. It's the one that back in the day that Randy Burley was our auto dialer for that lift station.
On this one, Mike, it's close to the bus barn, right?
Yes, sir.
Does it look like any of the mechanical rags that's being found in?
I don't think it's mechanical rags. Number one, knowing that the bus barn actually has a check valve on their sewer system, those rags would get caught in that check valve. What we saw was a lot of underwear is what we were seeing. We didn't know if it was coming from the apartments. But, you know, rags are a common issue nowadays. Everybody's fighting them. And you can do one of two things. You can either try to filter them out as they go into the lift station, but you end up with ragging issues and maintenance issues, or you can put a pump in that'll chew them up and spit them down the line to the next one. And so where they end up is at the wastewater plant. We have a bar screen there, so the bar screen catches them when they enter the wastewater plant, and then they're pulled out on a daily basis as it's ran there. But it's convenient. They're already running the plant 7 days a week.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of passing item number 8, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed, motion carries. All right, item number 9, consideration and possible action regarding calling a public hearing for a rezoning request from R1 Single Family Residential to B Commercial for 504 Caroline Street, Montgomery, Texas.
Mayor and Council, the city has received a rezoning application from the owner at 504 Caroline, which is the property just adjacent there to the wings over Montgomery. It's what's being used as the parking lot there today. The rezoning steps that we take as part of the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 211, is that any applicant has the right to request a rezoning annexation, but the first steps are the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to call a public hearing and advertise for it, and the city council also has to do the same. And so what we're asking here is for you guys to call a public hearing for the second meeting in June, which is June the 28th. Just ahead of that hearing, you will receive the final report and the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission from their public hearing. So I'd be happy to answer any thoughts or questions. Again, the only caveat being is that the motion is to call a public hearing. We can't say we're in favor of it or not in favor of it. We just need to call the public hearing and get it scheduled. And after we hold that, then you're able to deliberate and decide whether or not to approve or deny the request.
So we'll need a motion for the underlying part of the discussion, which includes the date and basically the substance. Does council want to make a motion to that?
I want to ask, you're saying it's currently the parking lot, but it also includes the house.
It does. It does.
Is that right? The whole piece of property
yes,
there?
ma'am. It's
not the wings over Montgomery. It's okay. It's the parking lot and the house.
Yes, ma'am. From Liberty Street to Pond, and just as a reminder, it is in the historic preservation district. Any changes or modifications that's made to the property would need to still run through the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to call a public hearing for a rezoning request from R1 Single Family Residential to B Commercial for 504 Caroline Street, Montgomery, Texas, for June the 28th at 6 o'clock at the regular meeting.
Second. Second. Second by TJ. First by Carol, second by TJ. This motion is debatable, amendable, and open to further discussion as needed. Is council ready for the question? All those in favor of calling a public hearing for the rezoning request from R1 Single Family Residential to B Commercial for 504 Caroline Street, Montgomery, Texas. Call a public hearing for June 28th at 6 o'clock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. The motion carries. Item number 10, consideration and possible action on acceptance of a feasibility study for Pulte Homes of Texas LP for a proposed single-family residential development.
Good evening, everyone. Starting on page 63, 62, and 63 of your packets. This is for the Pulte feasibility. Just kind of a reminder and kind of brief introduction. So the city, the new developments come in that are larger, so we're not talking about a single piece of property, single fast food restaurant, but a large development comes in. The city does a feasibility study on their behalf. The money is put up with the escrow agreement, which is what was done earlier in the consent agenda. Those do not require feasibility, so it's the same process. And then we'll go through and look at your water, your sewer, the demands of this development, the impacts on the system, note any traffic or transportation potential issues as it relates to us. So they tie into, in this case, this item, the next item, they tie into a textile facility and a county facility, so we have less control. And then talk about the potential financial impacts of that in terms of taxable value that you should expect based on their estimates, et cetera. So that's what the next two items on the agenda are. The first one's for the Pulte homes, and the second one, your next item is called the Nantucket Housing. So this Pulte tract is been commonly referred to as the Mabry tract. So it's 79 acres on 1097 just outside the city ETJ. So if you're looking in your packets on page 72 and 73, you'll see outlines of where this property is along with their preliminary land plan. So you can see where this is located. So we went through and what they're looking to, this is, let me back up. So this is the one that we talked about originally was 204 acres. And we went through the options of providing out-of-city service. That was decided not to. What they've come back to is they're looking to only develop the 79 acres of the neighboring tract. This doesn't include, and they do not have plans to develop the neighboring 123. So based on their land plan today, they have about 250 single-family lots. This is slightly more than what's shown on the exhibit in your plan because they're looking to be able to reduce some of that detention area after they do a study. However, this is based on 250 lots. Looking at their water and sewer usage, so for water, you have capacity to serve them for the next few years. However, as we've been saying, and as we've talked about the capital improvement plan and everything else, as all these developments that we're talking about continue to build out and everything else that's projected, we'll need additional water capacity to be able to meet that demand in the coming years. On the sewer side, it's essentially the same story. You have the capacity today. You have the capacity for a few years down the road as all these developments continue to build out. But again, as we get to that build out and as we've talked about putting additional capacity on the ground to continue to have it there. Additionally, this tract would tie into lift station 10. So at Buffalo Springs, you have two lift stations, one on the north side, which is lift station 9, lift station 10, which is on the south side. So what part of the study that we went through is to confirm from the point that it enters your system to the point that it gets to the sewer plant, what does and doesn't have capacity, and lift station 10 did not. One thing to note is the Porter Farms development that we've discussed also on the north side, 1097 at 149. The analysis showed the same thing for them. So likely if Pulte goes forward, and the Porter Farms is going forward, we look at some type of cost sharing agreement, one project to upsize to handle both the properties instead of trying to do two separate upsizings back to back. So then listed on page 1, you'll see the total estimated impact fees, cost outside of their on-site cost. So you have the escrow account, lift station 10 improvements, and their water and wastewater impact fees for a total of $1.3 million. And then the bottom of page 65 on the summary, you'll see their estimated valuation. So they're estimated an average home price of $383,000 for the 250 homes. When you do that math, plus we assume that 75% of those will take a 20% homestead exemption. That leaves an estimated annual tax revenue from this development full build out of approximately $309,000 to the city. Going through the rest of the report, that pretty well summarized it. But again, this is outside the city tract. Would require annexation. It would require to be zoned because it's currently not zoned. It's out in the city. So it would be zoned residential. And also they would be looking for a variance for lot size. So they were looking for 45-foot lots on this development. Page 67 goes through the water production side of things and how to provide them water. One main thing to note is we talked about that your water capacity starts getting close. In order to boost that up, there's an additional booster pump that can be added at water plant 3, which is stubbed out and easy relatively to do. So there are stub outs to be able to put in another pump with some electrical modifications. And that would take your capacity from about 570,000 gallons a day up to approximately 730,000 gallons a day. The estimated cost for that booster pump is about $120,000 as a standalone project. Just FYI. In terms of actually getting water to the site, in front of Terra Vista, there's a 12-inch water line that was stubbed out when that development was done, so this would be extended. They would connect to that 12-inch line, as well as they would extend a 8-inch water line through a reserve within Terra Vista, so they can create a loop in the system, so it's not just on one large dead end. On to page 68, on the sewer side, I mentioned this before, so again, the main thing is going to be the lift station 10 improvements, and then obviously their share of the impact fees to help fund additional expansions in the future. Drainage, the biggest items on drainage to consider is they do not have direct frontage on the canals around Terra Vista. So in order for them to tie in to that, to outfall their drainage, they have to work with the neighboring property owner to obtain an easement, and they're in the process of doing that. We met with that property owner this morning. They've already been in contact with each other. Traffic and transportation, again, this is what I was mentioning, they're tying into 1097. Based on their lane plan, they can only have one point of ingress and egress due to the limited frontage on 1097 that they have. Any requirements of the tie-in of additional turn lanes, et cetera, are going to be dictated by TxDOT, not the city. And then last page 70 is just a recap of the development costs and the impact fees that we've already mentioned. So that is all I have on this development. If you have any questions. So what the process is from here is you would accept the study. It doesn't guarantee, you're not agreeing to annexation, you're not agreeing to a development agreement, you're just accepting the study as it is. They will then come back, they also have the study, and will price either their development agreement and or annexation to then move forward with their process.
I'm glad you clarified that. So we clearly are not approving the project. We're approving the feasibility study is complete, and we're good with that to proceed, but then we'll be able to discuss any concerns that council has. But I'll entertain a motion and a second.
I move to accept the feasibility study only.
I second.
Motion by TJ, second. Casey, all
Chris, have they seen, oh, I'm sorry, Byron, go ahead.
this motion is available, amendable, requires majority vote, and is open for discussion.
Have they seen the feasibility study?
They have.
Or not until after tonight?
They have seen it. I've not gotten any feedback. However, years ago, when this project was looked at, there was no feasibility study. That was back in 2016 or 2017, I believe. So they've seen that, so they knew the basis of what they were going to be seeing. It actually went down a little bit based on changes in land plan. At that time, they were proposing closer to 400 lots. So a different developer. So they have seen it, and they've been aware of the need. And as far as I know, they're still wanting to move forward.
Chris, in conversations with both developers and real estate people, they're always in my ear about 40-foot lots. This is 45. Can you explain, future considerations wise of these types of developments? What are we to consider with small lots? How does that affect? Is that an ad valorem thing? What are we to consider with those small lots?
So I was like, with the higher density lots, there's more water in, more sewer demand, more traffic, more everything with the higher density lot. And I'm not a market expert, not a developer, so this is coming from what I hear from developers, but the market for the 75-foot, 9,000 square foot lot is not as great as these 45-foot lots that are going. It's a different market. It's what developers say, and so there's mixture that's being put out and around the city, and so that's kind of the driver is the market on the home builders and developers requesting these variances for that lot size and for whatever product they're wanting to, that their study and their analysis says is going to be beneficial. That answers your question.
Yes, but in the end, a given piece of land is subdivided this way or that way, but in the end, holistically, you get the tax money that you're going to get, right? And so, yeah, and in 4 years roughly, this will pay. Is that what I was reading? you get,
Yeah, their build out that they were wanting was or not that they're wanting, that they were projecting was to deliver approximately 6 homes in a month when they got up to full speed.
okay, any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of passing, can I say item 10 in this case? Item 10, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, there are none, and the motion carries. On to item number 11. Consideration possible action on acceptance of feasibility study for the Nantucket Housing for a proposed senior living and multiple family residential development.
On your desk, you have a separate page. So we made a revision this afternoon. It was brought to my attention I had misstated the number of units. So we had the valuation correctly. We had the water and sewer. I think I'd written 200 or 220 units. It's actually 375, 385 units. So that has been updated. What is on your report different from what was in your packet, or excuse me, on your desk different from what was in the packet. So I will skip again to the back of the report. So if you're looking at the hard copy, you'll see a nice colorful foldout. So where this, and if you go one page back, you'll see where this project is located. So this is off of Stewart Creek Road, just north of Pizza Shack. So again, this is outside the city limits. This would require annexation by the city and require to go through the zoning process, etc., for this property to develop. It is, as you can see on the land plan, approximately a total of 385 units, consisting of both a senior focused section and a multifamily section over the land plan that you have shown, with a clubhouse, a couple pools, amenities, etc. So going through this study, we'll go to the executive summary on page 3 of the report. So again, out of city would require annexation, would require zoning, 385 apartment units. Water wastewater capacity is same story as the Nantucket Farms, or excuse me, as the Pulte tract. Again, you have the capacity today, you have the capacity in the near future, but as we've been discussing, continuing to expand facilities and to be able to meet the additional growth. The estimated costs are listed in order to get water and sewer to this site. So their sewer would be from a private lift station in Force Bank. Since there's no, beyond this tract is the existing school that doesn't need service. So there's no reason for a public sewer line extension to only serve this development. So what's being proposed in here is they would install a private lift station. Also, just because of the topography of their tract and the depth of the utilities we have, a lift station is required, and that would pump back up to in front of Pizza Shack to the existing sanitary line there. For water, they would extend there's a 12-inch water line on 105 at Stewart Creek Road. They would extend that as a public line down to their property, and depending on where their actual connections are, they'll take it as far as they need along the frontage of their property on Stewart Creek Farms, or Stewart Creek Road, excuse me. Water and wastewater impact fees are listed, and then their valuation provided by the developers is approximately $32 million of full build out. And again, at the city's existing tax rate, it's about $128,000 in taxable revenue from this development. I've covered water, covered sewer. Drainage for this would go toward the back, so it all slopes off to Stewart Creek and will take its way out to the lake. So they'll be required to follow all Montgomery County city regulations regarding drainage and put in approved detention and/or drainage analysis to show what needs to be done to mitigate their impact. Traffic and transportation. So again, this is on a county road. So like the other one, the county's going to dictate as far as connections, driveways, turn lanes, etc., into this development. And then development costs are listed. One thing that we'll kind of go through, and I skipped over on the last one, I apologize. Water and wastewater impact fees and how they're calculated. So if you flip to Near the back, second or third to last page in your packet, you'll see a table. So what your impact fee ordinance is based on meter size or equivalent. Meter size is how your fee is assessed and determined. So we did an assumption based on meter size by looking at similar developments in the city and what they have for meter size to determine what their maximum impact fee would be based on the table. And again, it will all be subject to change. So when they do the final lane plan, the number of units change, the size of connection change, that's when that fee will actually be assessed and collected based on their true impact.
Okay. Entertain a motion to accept, again, this is a feasibility study, not accepting or approving the development itself. Do I have a motion?
Chris, is this the same developer that did the apartment on Flagship?
It is. It is. So Blazer, they are here today. If you have any questions specific to the development, again, the focus here is the utilities, but the Heritage Department
Is that the one behind?
Yes, behind Brooks Brothers. So that complex is the same developer here that's looking at this complex.
I have a motion to accept the feasibility study.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Carol,
Second.
second by TJ. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires a majority vote. Let's open further discussion.
And the developer has seen the study that you've done, Chris?
Yes.
All right. Are they're in line with the ones behind Brookshire Brothers? The quality and...
Let me, if you don't mind, I can have Matt Fuquay with Blazer can answer a little bit about what they have proposed in terms of the development itself.
Just real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Step to the microphone, please.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, everybody. Carol, my name is Matt Fuquay. Pleasure to be here with Blazer. With regards to the finish, the property would be designed as a Class A market rate property. So all of the finishes and design that you would expect from any Class A market rate property is what we intend on doing for both phases of the development. This would be a split phase development if we're able to proceed with the feasibility. We'll add that we've enjoyed being a part of the community since I think 2012 when we started working on the Flagship development, bringing different style housing, phases of housing. One of the things that was mentioned earlier, not to plug onto, but having some of the affordable component that we have with multifamily and senior housing on Flagship, and I think offered a nice variety of housing, and that would we would not be pursuing any type of affordable housing with this development beyond market rate.
The existing one, there's a 1-year wait. I know that for the 55 and up group. You have to wait 1 year. That speaks to the demand.
Yes, sir.
Quick question, what is the predicted time frame for the second phase?
It's a good question. I'd say all in, it's probably a 36-month process from start on first phase to starting second phase.
Okay, so it'd be immediate. You'd want to start as soon as you got done with one, you'd want to roll into the next.
Any further discussion? Council ready for the question? All those in favor of approving item number 11, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries. And we're ready for the departmental reports, starting with City Administrator's report, item number 12.
Thank you, Mayor. The next City Council workshop, which was set back in January, will be a day-long council workshop on June 25th for governance and continuation of strategic planning. Department heads have continued to work since January on moving forward the elements of the strategic planning. Department head staff will be meeting with Ron Cox later this week as a prelude to that. And again, that workshop will be Saturday, June 25th. Here at this location. And after we meet with Ron Cox this week, we'll send out additional information to all the members here.
Did you put a time in that 25th?
I anticipate they'll start at 8 a.m., and I'll confirm that after speaking with Ron to make sure that it's still going to work with them like the last time. In April, staff presented the possibility the farmers market is currently operating at Hanson's property to operate at 777 Pepper Street, which is city-owned property. City staff has worked with a plan with that, and we're approaching legal counsel with that of how to work that out. So we'll be bringing that back to City Council during June, but I want to give you an update on that so that it's working its way forward. Tonight with their department reports, I've asked each department member to give a little additional background information for the newer members here. If you have any questions, by all means ask them, and if anyone who would like the opportunity, I'd be happy to give you the time to spend with touring City Hall and meeting with the department heads to get a better understanding of what's on with each department. I know a lot of past members have really found liking the opportunity to go visit the public works locations and see the water plant, sewer plant, and lift stations up close and get a better feel for those. And better opportunity to see some of what the police department works with as well. So that's all available to any council members who would like those opportunities. Just ask and we will coordinate that. Work is continuing at water plant number 3 with the upgraded storage capacity getting ready to be placed into service ahead of the warm winter weather, warm summer weather stuff. Last month, the annual audit report was had been prepared, presented to council. The auditor city financial staff already working on the mid-year reviews to start looking forward on the next audit. Okay, the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation, updates for them in their April meeting, including sponsoring an application for the Chilton Greenhouse to be approved by the Texas Historical Commission as a historic site. That application has been accepted and is currently under review, and that will take several months of review at the State Historical Association. The MEDC also discussed setting a standard for wayfinding signage in the city with the intent of going up for request for qualifications to establish that, primarily starting with the downtown area, but with the useful elsewhere in the city. And at the May meeting, they did approve issuing that RFP for professional services to go ahead and look at setting a wayfinding standard for signage within the city. The MEDC board also during the April meeting discussed working with TxDOT to talk about sponsoring the cost to upgrade some of the medium spaces where you see TxDOT on the east side of the city right now working on the medium space. Some of that area that they'll be able to work with, potentially the city can participate with TxDOT with the cost of some upgraded pavers so it won't just be poured concrete in the middle. We're already in line to have that conversation with TxDOT. TxDOT's not ready to have that conversation, but one of the latter things they would do would be to forward that center concrete space. And they do already have existing existing contract options for those pavers, so they will be notifying the city, and we'll bring that up to the MEDC who have expressed any interest in covering the cost of those items on behalf of the city. So that part of the area will have an upgraded look over just base concrete. Also from the MEDC, they expressed an interest to, as TxDOT moves projects in the future westward to the city, ultimately 105 for the city will be enlarged all the way past the western boundaries of the city, all the way to the county line. As they increase median space there, the MEDC has talked about some willingness to include vegetative buffer in those spaces. So that would benefit the city. The MEDC is interested in knowing what those costs are in future TxDOT conversations. So those conversations are going around. At some point, those will need to come back to City Council, get City Council's input and approval. So I want to make sure you're aware that those conversations are happening. They will have to circle back to City Council.
We also briefly mentioned the possibility of lights possibly on the west side because it is so dark in those areas, but I don't think I think that might be a want to possibly, not necessarily, but whatever the opportunity out there is in the dark.
Yes, sir. And I think the options there is the MEDC is open to a variety of options that will benefit the city and its residents and those traveling through it, is what I took from those. So.
Okay.
And so,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to add, following that is the development report. And if you have any questions on those, be happy to take those. If you have any questions following the meeting, feel free to reach out to city staff, anytime you have those.
Any questions on development from the council? Okay, we'll move on to item number 13, sales tax report.
Our sales tax consultant comes in every third month. He will be out here next month. But I can draw up a couple highlighted items to you.
He's here.
Oh, he's here?
Oh,
Here he is.
I'm sorry, Eric. Oh, wait, you here for the...
Well, and sales tax too, so.
Okay. But this isn't your report, though? No. Okay. We'll get to him in a moment.
Okay.
On page 111, you'll see the top 25 sales tax filers for the last 12 months. And McCoy's the number 1, Kroger number 2, Chick-fil-A number 3. If you flip 2 pages farther back to page 113, you'll see the top 25 filers for the month of May compared to the month of April. Please note that the month of May is a month where companies that file quarterly file during that month. Companies that file quarterly do not file in the month of April, so that's a little bit of apples and oranges there for some of the companies. It's why you'll see Kroger at the top of the May 2022, but not on the April list at all. So. And on page 114, near the middle of the page, there's an error that I already brought to their attention, and we'll be speaking later this week. In the second group boxes down, it says 2022 budget for the city of sales tax of $2,200,000. That's not a correct figure, it's $4,300,000. So unfortunately, it artificially looks like we've collected 140% of our expectation for the budget. That actual number is 72% at a point 2/3 through the year. So we are ahead of expectations, just not by what is an apparently outlandish number. What happened there was he took that number from one budget line item, but there's 3 different budget line items where sales tax income is parceled out. And we've had a short discussion of that by email earlier today, and we'll be following up with that later this week. So that'll be corrected on future reports. Last item I want to point there on page 115, on the year, the box at the bottom has 6 years worth of data. But of note for those who were not here previously, in the year 2020, that having 0 collections and $2,000 worth of collections in March and April is not exactly a correct number. Several months before, in September 2019, the state erroneously overpaid us about $400,000. And in those 2 months, they took those funds back. Now, what we noticed here at staff level, we should not have been paid that $400,000, and we knew that was not correct. So we just put that money in a separate account, and it sat in a tax pool collecting interest. And when I lost count of the number of times we called the comptroller's office to say this was not our money, and I said yes it is. And that went back and forth for a few months, and they finally just said they'll figure it out. After several months, they finally figured it out and said they wanted their money back, so we sent it back to them, and we earned a little interest along the way. So, but I wanted to bring to your attention, if you look through that, it looks like a glaring error, and that's the story behind that. So, if you have any other questions, be happy to try to take those. And if Derek with sales, I think we're incorporated with it here next month, and we'll have another report a little bit later about it.
Questions? Item 14, municipal court report.
Okay, our court report, Department Head Kimberly Duffy is not here tonight because her youngest is graduating high school. And I told her to have a good night and celebrate, but not too much. I think her report is pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions, please send those to me and I'll get them to Kimberly and have her follow up.
Any questions?
Why do you think April is so low? It's April, it wasn't last year. Is it just,
I think they had one less court session for that month.
Okay.
I believe, if I remember correctly, there was a weather cancellation that month. But I will make a note, if there's a different answer to it, I'll get with Kim and get that distributed, if it's different than that.
Any other questions? All right, item 15, Public Works Report. Mike?
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'll read off a couple items from each section of the report, and then I'll be happy to ask or answer any questions you have on the report afterwards. In the water section, we completed our monthly leak notification door hangers, which is going through our Beacon website, and whenever we notice a resident has a leak of any kind of significance, we will make a door hanger, to leave it for them as a courtesy to let them know that they have something going on, try to help them out. Completed 5 work orders for endpoint maintenance issues. The endpoints are the brain of the water meter that does the communication. We have issues with those and have to go out and switch them out. Usually it's a warranty issue that's covered under the warranty 100%. On the wastewater side, we had a sewer backup at 1001 Wade, but it was due to lift station 4 issue, which has been resolved. We repaired a broken sewer lead on Peninsula Point. Streets and drainage and right-of-way section, we removed a tree that was damaged by a storm on Community Center Road, and we repaired 1 pothole for the month. On the building, facility, vehicle and equipment maintenance section, we pressure washed all the facilities, so that's a big project we complete once a year. We do all the sidewalks, playground equipment, picnic tables, anything that could use a cleaning. Parking lot at City Hall, we do that once a year in springtime.
You wait just long enough for the pollen to quit?
We try to,
up,
yes, sir.
You know, that's me too.
Yeah. So we completed that last month, and we completed 17 work orders for general City Hall maintenance, which is varies from just about anything that's requested here. On the Parks and Recreation side, we repaired the drinking fountain at Cedar Break Park, and we water sealed all the wooden structures at all the parks. That's another project we do once a year. Water seal, we spray all the cabins, picnic tables, porches, anything that is wood and could use a good sealing. We do that once a year. It'll be on the next month's report, but on this one we repaired the drinking fountain. We also replaced the drinking fountain at Homecoming. That'll be on next month's report, but you might have seen a Facebook post about it. So I figured it was worth mentioning. Fernland Docents reported 869 visitors and provided 75 tours for the month. That's a large month for them. That's a good amount of visitors. And then in the general section, we assisted with the Antique Festival, and a couple of employees attended various leadership trainings. We just happened to have 2 of them that happened in the same month. Eric, our Public Works foreman, he attended the 2-part session, TML's Leadership Academy, graduated from that this last month. And then I took one of our crew leaders with me to attend a new Leadership Academy that is put on by TEEX, that is just a 2-day class, and turned out to be a very good one that I'm going to end up putting more of the frontline guys through. It was probably one of the best leadership class that I've taken so far on a very first-hand basic level. It was very good. That's it. Y'all have any questions? And I will say I'll extend the offer that Richard made to tour facilities. Anybody wants to ride around with me for a day and look at water plants and sewer plants and lift stations and see all what we do, I'd be happy to take you. Yeah. It's a good learning experience. Usually everybody that I've taken has always left with a whole lot better understanding of what all goes on with water and sewer and public works. So be happy to do that.
Mike, on the weekend, like at Homecoming Park, are those restrooms open or are they locked?
Yes, sir, they're open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We had locked them, so a couple of years ago we were having some issues, and we had to lock them at night. The PD was helping us with that. They would lock them at night, we would unlock them in the morning, but we haven't had those issues in over 2 years, so they're open.
All right, thanks.
What's the upgraded camera system at WWT?
So it's the new, at the new office site over there.
Okay.
We had to move it from the old office site, and it's the same system. We upgraded to 16 cameras instead of the 9 that we had. We still only have 12, but we had to upgrade to go with a few more cameras at the back. So we got a little bit better coverage. We can see all the new stuff at the back, and we can see who's coming in and out from the back office.
Any other questions?
Thank y'all.
All right, item number 16, financial report. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just briefly going over the financial report. The first page that I got going through your account balances. Main ones that I focus on are the general, is the general fund, as well as your MEDC and your utility fund. There's a total of 8 different funds that there's a total of 10 different funds, I should say, that I keep up with, but the primary ones being your general, your utility, and your MEDC. We're at 6 months reserve currently with your general fund, 2 years, just over 2 years with your MEDC, and with your utility fund, you're just over 1 year's worth of reserves. The next several pages, next 4 pages are just a list of transactions that took place in the month of April, all of your disbursements, all of your receipts that you received for each of your funds. Beforehand, we used to have it where it was page by page by page for each fund, but with this new system that we've had going on in code, which we started up back in February of this year, it's been able to condense down a lot of these pages, and it's definitely been a money saver as well too on paper, and it's just not as bulky of a report as it used to be. So I've been pretty thankful for that. But going through most of your receipts are from your sales tax collections, $278,593.13, which was the bulk of it for the month of April. And going through the rest, all of your disbursements, you had $494,665.45, and then your deposits were $422,713.34 for the month of April. On your budget, which is on page 133 of your report, there's 8 different budgets that I do. A couple of the funds we don't have budgets for, just because they're very minute numbers that we have. Big one, of course, is your general fund. Currently, you have 64% collected for your general fund as of April 30th. And you are just under 50% for your expenses expended for your general fund as well. And then on your last page, we have our debt service payments, and each 2 times per year, semi-month, on September and on March, we have to pay debt service payments to our bondholders. Principal and interest is due in March, and then just interest only due in September. Unless you have any questions, that's all I've got. And of course, if you have any other questions that you would like to come by, see me, just let me know. I'm usually pretty available, and we'll be more than happy to sit down with you on going over this report in detail, however way you'd like.
Your yellow highlighting is basically good news.
What's that? Well, the yellow highlighting is actually the subtotals for each of your funds. I wanted to at least separate those out, because with all those numbers on there for your account numbers, I just figured it's just kind of easier to show, what we have for our admin totals, what we have for our police, public works, court. Then that way it kind of gives you a better look at where we're at for each department.
And for the new council members, I can assure you this format is a lot easier to read. I know it's kind of mind-numbing, but it's cleaner, it's neater, it's categorized, and it's a lot easier to research. So thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Item 16, hotel tax report. 17, excuse me.
If you go ahead and come up, please. For the council members and mayor who've been here for a bit, you may remember we started approved a while back, working with Adavar. And so this is the first report from that company as an introductory report. So,
Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations to the mayor and council members. It was a treat to be here on a night that y'all get sworn in. I'm Ted Camel. I'm from Tyler, Texas. That's where my office is at, and I pretty much run all the Texas. I take care of all of my Texas customers. That we do all types of revenue. We help cities find money, sales tax, franchise tax, short-term rentals, which is something I want to talk about tonight with your lodging tax. We began a few months ago, and we're in a process right now of looking at the data, and we'll soon provide the city a list of any short-term rentals that aren't registered and paying the tax that they're supposed to be paying by ordinance to the city of Montgomery. The overall picture for this area, now don't get confused, it's not in the city limits of Montgomery, but there's about 375 active short-term rentals that affect your city one way or the other. Most of these are located obviously closer to the lake, and that would not be paying hotel taxes to the city of Montgomery. But certainly those folks come into town, do shopping, so it does affect your sales tax base, and it's certainly something that you should be aware of. The average daily rate for these rentals is $222. It's a high in September of $237 to a low in February of $206. The occupancy rate, which, you know, if you have a hotel with an occupancy rate of 50%, that means for that month they were, on any given night, they were 50% full. The occupancy rate for these short-term rentals is actually 60%, which is pretty good. But then again, it's seasonal. In July of last year, it was 81%, so obviously that's your peak time in the summer. It drops down to 38% in January. The average revenue that each short-term rental generates on a monthly basis is about $2,900 a month. So if you have some that are in your city, you know, we'll look at those. We're going to look at how much they're generating, we'll get guidance from the city as to whether you want those to pay any back taxes. We'll work with them. I like to call it voluntary compliance. Generally, you don't want to go in and do an audit of a short-term rental because some of these folks are homeowners. It's a different type of business than operating a hotel. I do hotel audits. I've done about 8,000 of them in Texas over the last 17 years, and we know how to do them effectively. But generally, you can go and visit a short-term rental owner. Some of these folks, I know probably around the lake, they don't live in those properties. They own them. They might enjoy them a couple of times a year. Then they'll have a platform like Airbnb, rent them out when they're not enjoying their second home or a lake home. But we can get them to pay some back taxes if that's what the city wants us to do, or if they just want to get them registered. So going forward, if they're in your jurisdiction, that they are complying. The next step is something that you could visit with in the future is a permitting process where you require somebody that has a short-term rental to obtain a permit. And that's a lot of cities, even cities your size. I just came from a city very similar to Montgomery, up near Athens, Toole, Texas. It's a community of about 1,500 people, and they are on a lake, and they have a lot of short-term rentals on a lake, and they're considering a permitting process. So just to be able to have a short-term rental, you obtain a permit that might be good for a couple of years, very similar to a special use permit that you would give a daycare center or someone operating a business out of their home. Then they get a little code compliance inspection. Short-term rentals, they always look for requirements for smoke detectors, parking, capacity, whether you're renting the whole house, things that the city might want to know some information And obviously the neighbors would have a say. There's certain cities that will dictate that certain areas that they're not allowed. You're not allowed to have a permit, so you can't operate a short-term rental over here, and over in this area you can. Those are things that we can visit and help the city with on a best practices ordinance down the road. You know, we have done that for cities like the city of Belmead, which is next door to Waco, which is where obviously you've got the Baylor Bears. And their short-term rental activity has picked up over the last few years. So they adopted an ordinance so they can wrap their arms around it, have some limited, reasonable level of control and regulation to protect the neighbors and protect the integrity of single-family housing, but at the same time allow people that want to earn some extra money do so. So if there's any questions, I can help you. Whenever the city calls us, I pay attention to our customer service, and they seem to respond pretty rapidly to any request the city has.
So do you have an idea when we would expect that second report? How soon?
I'm working on it. It takes time.
It does.
You know, these platforms give us some data, but they stop at actually giving us the addresses and the owners. They claim that they'll be violating their constitutional rights if they do so. You know, so we have to take those dots on the map and create the first round, the first list, and we can present that to the city. Then you can decide how you want to address that, sending them a friendly letter or registration. They don't. We have situations without an ordinance. It gets a little hard because a lot of them say, no one cares. You know, suddenly when you have an ordinance, all of a sudden they step up to the plate. And I'll give you one example. The city of Galveston had about 2,500 registered short-term rentals. They adopted their ordinance back at the end of the last year, and without anyone doing anything, suddenly they now have 5,000 registered short-term rentals. Because now they realize there's a code enforcement officer that'll come visit them, and they have some teeth, and all of a sudden, and I honestly believe people want to comply. They just don't know how to comply or where to, you know, they might be thinking, well, Airbnb's collecting the tax, and then you find out, oh, they're not.
Right.
You know, so I think most folks want to do what's right.
And for a city, that ends up being a big pool of money in the end, when you're growing so fast, and we have so many wedding venues and things of that nature around the area. Council, have any other questions?
In your report, will it have, or can you have an example of one of the city ordinances that you've seen?
Absolutely. If you would like me to, I can send you. And the thing is, you want to look at something that works for your community, something that y'all can work at a workshop. You know, some go, like Galveston has it, you know, they have everything, every bell and whistle in there. You don't necessarily need that. You probably need something similar to what Belmead has. You know, because most of Belmead's, the folks live in the homes. You might have some different situations. You can make that determination. There are some cities that dictate in their ordinance that you have to live there on the property. You cannot be an absentee landlord for a short-term rental. One, it's because of nuisance complaints, but two, it's a housing shortage issue. Even in Manhattan, in New York City, you have to live on site. You cannot be an absent because you're taking housing off the marketplace. That drives up the cost of housing in an area that's already got severe housing shortage. So they require you by ordinance to be an on-site landlord. Those are the kind of things that you can look at, and I can certainly send him a couple of 2 or 3 different ordinances around the state that have various degrees of, you know, what you're looking at.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right.
Any other questions?
All right, we'll move on to item number 18, police report. Chief.
Evening, Mayor, Council. You have that report in front of you. Got any questions?
Don't do that to us.
It's just broken down by different things, patrol division, personnel training. Now I will highlight that all our officers attended a recertification training for tasers in April, also less lethal. And if you remember, less lethal was the thing that got about 14 of the Austin police officers indicted because of training, and also the ammunition was out of compliance. And so we want to make sure that we wouldn't have that same situation here, because everyone has those in their vehicles. So we want to get in that. And so it also breaks down by the offense categories, the investigations, and we're into our 5th week of our Citizens Police Academy. And after that, around June 29th, we'll start our CERT course training. That will be 9 weeks. That's your Citizens Emergency Response Team. Last year, we picked up about 30 people, and not all from the city. About 15 of them from the city. The rest of them were from surrounding areas. But it's become a pretty good thing because we're putting that team together as an emergency response team. It's sort of like a Citizens Police Academy team. They're taking a lot of man hours off of police officers, transporting cars for us, so it's taking a lot of hours when we're not spending 45 minutes for an officer to be doing something down the road. They're taking care of that, so it keeps those officers here in the city and doing police work.
I can tell you, Chief, we appreciate you in a whole lot of ways. This police force is the best educated, best trained force anywhere around that I've ever seen. It's an example in a lot of ways. Our police are getting called to give advice on how to secure massive events, including the Donald Trump thing and all that went on there. And so when other people are calling our police to get advice on how to keep something safe, we have something special. I thank you for that.
I'd also just like for you guys to join me in thank you. Where's Larry?
So you get an award for timeliness?
No, not the time. Larry Evans is one of our reserve officers. He's been with us for 9 years, but he's got, the other day, he reached 30 years in this. This is a flat 30 years of service. It's hard to be 30 years in the police, but it's hard to be 5 these days. And we also like to give him a 30-year pin. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Chief, before you get, are you working with the school district the last couple of days?
Yes, sir. Matter of fact, we spoke with the school today, and we patrol those campuses anyway, but we'll be heightening that patrol for the next 2 days, especially after the incident that we had today. Really sad thing. So we'll definitely, we've spoken with the chief this afternoon, and we'll be patrolling those campuses for the next, at least for the next 2 days. Any more questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item number 19, code enforcement reports, March and April of 22. Ms. Tiller.
Good evening, Mayor Sanford, council members. My name is Corinne Tilley. I am the new code enforcement officer for the city of Montgomery. My role as a code enforcement officer is to ensure that all areas such as properties, businesses, activities within the city of Montgomery are compliant with the codes and ordinances passed by City Council. When issues arise, my primary goal is to obtain voluntary compliance. In your packets, pages 144 through 147, you'll find some information about the activities, or my activities in the last 2 months, my first 2 months on the job, March and April. If you have any questions regarding those reports.
So officer initiated is obviously the biggest part of it. And so that's an officer who says, hey, you need us to come. And
Officer initiated is when I patrol the areas of the city of Montgomery and I initiate the case.
so it's initiated by you. Thank you.
Yes, possible compliance issues to address. Yes.
and I noticed more than a few of those were dumping and illegal dumping and things like that you find.
Sometimes the illegal dumping comes from the sheriff's office. When a case or when a call comes into the sheriff's office, then RPD gets notified, and then I go and assist with PD. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you. Item number 20, utility report.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a couple items of note on the utility report. Where it talks about hotel tax, $519. That is the Caroline House, which has always been pretty good about paying. So working with Mr. Campbell, who's going to be helping us get through the other providers out there, maybe collecting from a greater number. Franchise fees, those were from two smaller companies that was basically Suddenlink, that's their franchise fees. And the escrow fees come from 3 different escrow agreements. One particular note, part of the city reimbursement, one was a company, UBO, where the city had double paid a bill, and so they refunded that amount. And there's also a $50 donation from the Rebel Alternative Arc chapter that made a $50 donation towards farmland. So I want to point that out and give them credit where it's due on that, and thank them for that. The next page shows on permits. There were a total of 49 permits issued for the month of April. And our active water accounts with growth in the area broke 1,000. So there's good. So we're up to 1,002 water accounts now on the system. A number of those are new homes under construction that, but they reach a point where the water service is necessary. So in the on the city accounts water usage on page 150, 2 items of note there. On the top line, the community building irrigation. There was a leak that was repaired on the irrigation lines. That was part of the 22,000 gallons of water that was used in April. And then the bottom line, Memory Park, for April 2022, you see 145,000 gallons. That is just the high irrigation use and the high use of water, because we had a fairly warm and dry period during that month. I know sometimes some people don't always remember, and we hear that from customers on their bills. We have a long dry period, their bills go up. And then in the intervening period, when we read the meters and send the bills out, we get a period of rain. And people tend to remember it rained, but they forgot there was a whole month of no rain. So, and that's the report on that. If you have any questions, we have to take those on the utility report. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Item 21, utility operations report.
Mayor, Council, we have your April operations report for the period of March 18th to April 17th. On page 2, we have our district alerts. These are all items that are when we require call-outs or distribution, disruption in service, water quality, leaks, so forth. And so we list all those that we received during this time frame for the city. On page 3, we have your wastewater plant flow detail. On this chart, we have certain areas marked on the chart. So the green line is going to be your average flow for the month. Your yellow line is 75% of your permit. Blue line is 90%, and the red line is what you're actually permitted to discharge on an average daily basis. So even if you do go above that line once or twice, as long as the average is below your permit value, you're still within permit. So for this month, we flowed a total of 5,928,000 gallons. Our peak flow was March 22nd at 383,000 gallons. And your daily average flow is 191,200. On the 3-month average, you're at 196,000, which is 48% of your capacity. Page 4, we have some of your discharge permit information, and below that we have your effluent monitoring samples, appliance samples that are pulled throughout the month. So, and then below that we have a chart showing your averages and your highs and lows. So for the month of April, there were no excursions, and we also recorded 3 inches of rain at the wastewater plant. The rain is in there just as kind of a measurement for the month, not necessarily that there's a permanent value for rain, but just kind of give you an idea. If you start seeing some levels a little out of whack, sometimes when we get a lot of rainfall, it can cause alternative results at the sewer plant. Page 5 is your water report. On this report, we have pumpage from all 3 of your wells, well 2, 3, and 4. On this, I want to point out well 4 is a little lower than usual. We did have some issues with the cooling tower, so we're not able to run that well at that time. And over to the right, we have your ratings and your year-to-date pumpage and your year-to-date permit percentage of what you have pumped and what your total permit is. So towards the bottom, on the bottom left, we also have your flushing and your subtotal. So the total percent accounted for this month is 96%, which is a very healthy number. Typically, anything over 95% is a very good representation of knowing where your water is going in the city. And then the bottom right is your total connection count. This is based on the electronic meters. We pull this data every month off of the website based on the category it's in on Beacon's website. Page 6 is your groundwater production chart. It has a 13-month history. It's just identifying what wells pumped what amount each month for the past 13 months. Page 7 is your water accountability. It's basically what I described earlier with a 13-month history. And that is the end of my report. Unless Mayor or Council has any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
22, engineers report.
Good evening again, everyone. Starting on page 159 of your packets. Item 1, the downtown waterline replacement project. We're working on final closeout documents on that one. One issue that came up is there was some asphalt that was settling by in-stitches drapery. So the contractor's going back out to get that repaired. Your water plant number 3 improvements project did not receive a pay estimate this month. We expect everything to be online and have all the final inspections within the next 30 days. So we received this afternoon all the bacteriological tests on the new ground storage tank to make sure that it was all safe to put into use. And then we expect the rest of the facilities here shortly. Flip over to page 2 of our report, page 160 of your packets. The top talks about your GLO projects. The Martin Luther King sanitary sewer and ditch work project. The pre-cleaning process has been completed, so the engineer is reviewing those videos and confirming recommendations for repairs to fit within the scope. The water plant number 3 generator project. Again, this is the addition of a second generator at water plant 3 because you have 2 electrical services. So now, after completion of this, all facilities can run in the event of a power outage. That pre-construction meeting was held at the first of the month, and contractor is not yet mobilized, and it'll be a few months as getting a generator is a long lead time process at the moment. Item 6, your cleaning and televising project that's ongoing. We have the majority of the videos. Contractor finished up last week, so we're going through those results, and there'll be a handful of items the contractor will have to go back and re-televise that he is working on. Your Klepper Sidewalks project, we will receive bids for that on June the 14th. So those will be presented at your June 28th meeting. And that, as a reminder, that gets sidewalks from Prairie all the way to Fernland Park. Your 15-year infrastructure plan, we're still working on those updates. And then item 9 and 10 are on the old Plantersville Waterline and force main extensions. Those relate to the Redbird Meadows development. And we're doing some preliminary coordination at the moment, getting survey work, et cetera, completed. Feasibility studies we've discussed, so nothing new to talk about on those. Page 3, plan reviews are listed. So Discount Tire, we expect to be able to approve those plans any day now. They're recording an easement It was split on a property line. We have it from the other property owner. We just need it now from discount itself, and then those plans can be recorded, or excuse me, the easements can be recorded, the plans can be approved. Hills of Town Creek, Section 5, we received revised plans yesterday, so we'll be reviewing those plans. And then Popeyes, we're finishing up our plan review. We'll have that out probably tomorrow or the next day. 1-year warranties are listed. Plat plan reviews are listed. We've talked about Redbird. Your wastewater treatment plant permit, we should have the final permit any day now. It's gone through the public hearings. It's gone through all of its review. Just waiting on the documentation for it. And the last page talks a lot about your TxDOT activities throughout the city. We're working on a meeting. We're trying to meet with them this week to sit down and go over all the projects in the city. The turn lane and the delays that have happened there, the access management and the traffic reconfiguration that they've done out there. So not a lot of updates, but we're trying to get a meeting set up for this week and let you know at your next meeting. And then your emergency preparedness plan, again, no updates. That was submitted back on February 24th to the state. I'm just waiting for comments. There are a couple items that I don't have on here that I did want to mention that we're working on or you'll be soon hearing about. Downtown improvements survey. So we're working on a survey of downtown to be able to use and MEDC to use for all future design work. So we'll have a complete topographic survey of all the utilities, paving, property lines, etc. So as design projects come down the line, the survey work is already completed and it's all done on by one company. Downtown drainage study, we're working with your city staff on that, and that'll be discussed at a future item. Again, this is in relation to downtown improvements, getting the master drainage plan together. So as improvements are done, there's already a master plan for drainage, so we're not going back and redoing work in the future. Flagship storm sewer. So one of the things that with the cleaning and televising project, we're also televising all the storm sewer along Flagship Boulevard. It is plastic pipe. It was installed, I think, close to 20 years ago now. If I look at the plans, I think it was early 2000s. And if you've driven down there, there's a handful of sinkholes along the backside of Berkshire Brothers. So they've been going through, reviewing those videos or televising that line to come up, or will come up with recommendations for repairs, because it's not a, isolated, let's fix one spot. By the looks of it, there's issues throughout the pipe, so it's replacing larger sections, and it's better to replace the larger section than kind of patchwork it. And then the last thing I have is we're finalizing the College Street repair. So there's the culvert that was having the issues on College Street. We went through, re-looked at the sizing, put together some costs, and just need to get with your staff to get a plan going forward to get that replaced and the road rebuilt. Oh, and the last thing I want to mention, just because this is probably helpful, the very last page of our report is a map. We have included on here the 2 feasibility studies, escrow agreements you approved today, just so you can see where those projects are. The Express Oil Change and the Montgomery Summit Business Park expansion project are now shown on this map.
So we'll get a place to buy some tires and get this oil change.
Yeah, you'll have discount tire on one side, Popeyes, 4 car washes, and an oil change.
And I've noticed oil changes are about the price of 2 tires at least right now.
That's all I have. Unless you have any questions for me.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the reports.
I'll make a motion to approve the reports.
Second.
Well, we take Casey's second first, and so this motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. All in favor of approving the reports as read, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none, and the reports are passed. All right. Executive session, the City Council reserves the right to discuss any of the items listed specifically under this heading, or for any items listed above an executive closed session as permitted by law, including if they meet the qualifications of section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, 551.073, deliberation regarding gifts, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, the deliberation of regarding security devices, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations under Chapter 551 of the Government Code of the State of Texas. And so it is 7:56, and we are adjourned into executive session.
in here.
It's nice.
I'll have to start wearing my jacket. Bring my little big old winter jacket.
I think part of it was when there were 50 people in the room, that helped.
That is true.
All right, it's 8:55. We return from executive session. Does council have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to terminate the contract with Richard Tram effective May 24th, 2022 for no confidence.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Motion by Casey, a second by Cheryl. This motion is debatable, amendable, and open to discussion.
Well, I have a few remarks, I guess. Throughout the time, I know Richard has been the best of times, sometimes it's been the worst of times. As they say, it's been the age of wisdom, age of foolishness, the epic of relief, and the epic of incredulously. Tonight's been the season of light, the season of darkness, spring of hope, and the winter of despair. Many times we have everything before us, and sometimes we feel like we got nothing before us. But I just want to let you know that I appreciate all that you've done. I don't get the same feel as my colleagues or the people before me have gotten. I hadn't gotten any text from developers. Maybe they don't come to me because I've been kissed by nature's son. Maybe I don't get phone calls or email from anybody. I hadn't gotten any upset from any of the department heads that you had. Maybe you can do things more for us. Yeah, we all can. You know, maybe the buck stop with you. Yeah, we know to do it. But it takes a concerted effort of a team, I think, to make the city great. I appreciate how you sit there with your grace and your demeanor, with all the things people have say about you, and you kind of smile and go through it. But I just think that we are rushing the gun on things. I don't want to come in on my first night on something, and then I make a major decision on, you know, even though some people may go around and gather information from other people. But I think we should all sit as a group and discuss this thing more. Once a citizen, that's one thing discussing, but when you're on the council, we have to look at things a little differently than just as the citizen. And I know we hadn't had many citizens come in. I know the water's still being gone, the trash is being still picked up, the streets are still being safe. We hadn't any developers come in and stand up and give 3 minutes and say that they're not going to do any business in the city because of you, Richard. Maybe I missed the meeting, and I missed a lot. But I think that, you know, whether we gave something in writing, I think it behooves us as a group to bring you before us and ask specific questions. I can write something and we get interpretation. People can have things out in the community and it's maybe not true. Somebody told me today that Trump won the presidency. I couldn't believe it. But, you know, we have to go and do our research ourselves. I don't want what people come to me as a body. If the citizens come to us with it and they pull our coat, then okay, I can go along with that. But if I got an agenda or something going on, or if before we had different personalities and conflict, that's part of it. We have personalities in our own home. So that's not, and then if they say, well, he's not doing his job because of this, I need to find out why. Whether issues at home, with something going on with the family, with my dog sick or something got to drive me. But I just want to let you know that I appreciate everything that you've done, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Terminate contract with Richard Tram effective May 24th, 2022 for no confidence. All in favor say yes.
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 All Opposed, say no.
No.
There's 1 no, 3 yeses. And a motion is approved to terminate the contract with Richard Tram effective May 24, 2022 for no vote of no confidence. It is 8:59. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion
Do
to
we have any
adjourn.
personal inquiries?
Oh, council
Oh, I'm
inquiry.
sorry. Council inquiries.
Yep.
Anybody have any? One of the things I want to know, when could I ask Alan, how do we go about filling the vacancy? Because we're setting the precedent now that if we got a tie, it can go either way. So how do we go about filling our vacancy? Does it come from you, the mayor, or does it come from the council members?
The council members vote to fill the vacancy. Y'all can decide to request people to submit some sort of letter of interest if you choose. There's no legally required application process, if you will. But you have the opportunity as a council to nominate someone and then vote on that person.
Well, that's how I was first got on, because I had some council members come to me and ask about it, and I just filled that term until May, and then you had to run. So,
Is there a limit as time to fill that position?
Is it 60 days?
I can't remember offhand if there's a specific limit.
Oh, you scared us.
So there's no specific time. There's no, you will be removed on the next statement. There's no time to it.
I don't think there is, but I'll have to check that and let you know.
Well, I mean, it's a one-year term. 1 year is left on the term.
Right.
Is that right?
If it remains unfilled, obviously it gets filled at the next election.
Right.
Right.
So does council have any suggestions to maybe bring your recommendations to the next meeting, June the 14th? The possibility of having somebody in place for the second meeting in June?
if we could probably get some names and check around.
Is everybody in agreement to that?
When is that again?
The June 4th meeting, and then we can decide what to do from there.
Okay. Are we going to put something out, or are we just going to discuss it on June the 14th?
I think we can discuss it on the 14th. Because if you go 2 weeks and you don't feel like you have a name and you want to put it out or whatever.
Yeah, we could, like I say, we could discuss it and then still have time to put it on the agenda going forward, Just kind of get it out, just to see. I don't know if they put it on the web or what.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, any further discussion? Council inquiry? All right, now I need a motion to dismiss.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by Carol,
Second?
second by Casey, and we, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we are.
I wasn't making the W a capital.